Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Travel Talk by Trip 101. In this series, we talk to different travelers and area experts from across the world to help our travelers plan their trips more efficiently. My name is Nirja. I'm based in Goa, India. I love to travel, mainly to learn about different places, cultures, and to connect with different types of people. In this episode, we will be talking about the largest city in Quebec, which is Montreal. It is famous for its delectable food, its historical streets, and skiing. We also have Sarah with us today, who will tell us more about her trip to this beautiful city. And she'll also tempt us to visit this place and put it on our bucket list. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Lovely having you here today with us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm actually from Hong Kong, but I moved to Toronto about 2 years ago. I was a student a few months ago, but I've graduated lately. I'm also a small content creator on Instagram and I make travel reels. So that's a little bit about me.
Lovely. What did you graduate in?
So I did a program in communications and writing. It's a short program. It's a graduate certificate. Yeah.
That's cool. How many places have you traveled to?
I've actually traveled to quite a lot of places: Korea, Japan, Taiwan. I've also been to the UK and a couple of places in Europe, but now I'm mainly in Canada.
Yeah, it's lots of places in short. So coming to Montreal, can you tell us why you chose this location?
I've actually been there for 3 times. So there's not really a particular reason because it's just because Montreal is really one of the popular city that people usually travel
Right.
to when in Canada. If you're going to do a long trip, you don't want to miss out on Montreal. Also, as you've mentioned, it's one of the city in Quebec. Actually, I think it's the biggest city in Quebec
Yes.
as well. It's Quebec is the French speaking province.
Right.
So it gives a pretty different vibe. So it's pretty worth visiting.
And when you choose the place to visit, like what kind of travel are you? Do you plan every minute of your traveling itinerary or just go out and go with the flow?
I think I'm more on the planning side. I would do a rough planning and then I will try to check off my list as much as possible. But again, also it's okay to ditch my plans sometimes. I don't really mind as well. But I guess it's always good to plan ahead because we don't really know what would happen, and it's nice to have something in mind.
So do you mainly travel by yourself, with family, friends?
The first time I went there, I was with my boyfriend and his friends.
Okay.
And then the second time I was with my friends from Toronto. And then the third time I was with my family. Yeah, I'm always with someone.
That's nice. It's more fun that way.
Yeah.
Coming to planning, so you plan a little bit and you know what to expect. So when you went to Montreal, what were you expecting before you went there?
So for the first time, I didn't really have an idea of what Montreal would be like. I only know people speak French there. So it would be a bit different. But yeah, I just did some research, a brief research on where I could go. And then
Okay.
because we've got some friends over there as well. So they took me and my boyfriend and his friends to
Okay.
different places. For the first time, I didn't really have much in mind. I just pretty much went with the flow. But for the second time and the third time, I did some more planning so that because I've been there and then I could take my friends and my family to different places. Yeah, I think I had a much clearer picture in mind when I went there the second time and third time.
Yeah. So how long were you there for in Montreal? You said you've been there
Um,
3 times. So
yeah, the first time was much longer. It was like a 2 weeks trip.
okay.
And then the second time was just 4 days. And then the third time, which was actually just last month, we stayed there for a week.
So you have diverse ideas. You've been through a lot of different times there.
But on each trip, we always, because I went with different people and all of them were there for the first time. I basically went to the same places for 3 times.
Okay.
Maybe some additional places.
Yeah. So let's come to our itinerary now, because I know you have so much to talk about. So can you walk me through your itinerary, just in general, when you combine all 3 trips? So what are the places you saw?
Yes, there's a few places that like the most popular touristy
Right.
places would be, the first one would be the Old Port, which is the area by the river. I think the river called St. Lawrence River. I'm not sure. So that area, it's pretty old. It's giving some sort of historic vibe. And
Yes.
then there's some cobblestone streets, also some cute boutiques, and also some restaurants. Also, the feel is pretty nice because it's just along the
Yeah.
riverside. So there's also some sort of carnivals. I'm not sure. Sometimes like they would do that on and off. And then there's a Ferris wheel as well. And then, so this is the first place, that top one. And then the other one that I would recommend, and I always go, would be Mount Royal. So it's like a hill in the middle of Montreal.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah, it's a park. And then people usually do a hike up to the lookout. And then
Okay.
from there, you can see the city view of Montreal. And it's pretty nice. It's actually, this picture, I took it from
It
Montreal.
looks lovely.
Yeah, and it looks pretty different in the summer because of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
In the winter, it's pretty gloomy, but in the summer, it's pretty nice. And then apart from this one, there's also an oratory, also on Mount Royal, but on the other side of
Okay.
this lookout. It's called a crypt church. I think it's one of the biggest church in Canada. What's more, it's they have a very long staircase and a platform, and then it's a very nice place to watch the sunset. Yeah, it's pretty
Sounds
fun because
lovely.
it's lovely because people would just sit on the staircase. You would find like when the weather's nice, there would be like 100 people sitting together on the
Oh,
staircase, the sunset together. So it's a pretty fun and unique thing to do. I guess these 3 places are the most popular tourist spots, and I
mhm.
really recommend them.
Okay. I also heard that there are lots of museums and, as you mentioned, churches and lots of cultural attraction in Montreal. So did you get the chance to see any of them?
Not inside, but
Right.
I think we walked past through some of these museums and galleries. I didn't really go inside because sometimes the schedule is a little bit packed and didn't go inside. Sometimes it's because I usually try to do things that are free, but so
Yeah,
if
budget traveling.
yeah, if it needs a ticket, then sometimes I wouldn't go inside. But I think the gallery is free, but I didn't go. But
Okay.
maybe if you have time, you can check it out. And apart from the gallery, there's also a zoo and also an exhibition center that really worth visiting. And they have a
Okay.
very similar name. One of them is called the Biosphere, and the other one is called the Biodome, I think. Yeah. So I think the dome is the zoo, and then the sphere is literally a round architecture. It's pretty iconic in Montreal, and people usually mix them up because they have similar
Right.
names.
Yeah, I can imagine that
Yeah.
happening.
And but yeah, I heard that it's pretty cool. So if you have more time and maybe you're willing to pay more to visit some cool places, then that would be some spots that you want to
Nice.
check out.
Okay. So you mentioned Montreal. Is it like the
Mhm.
kind of place you could have a picnic just after a hike and just have a picnic there?
Yeah, it's actually, there's a lot of to do on Mount Royal. Like in the summer, you can of course do a picnic. Some
Right.
people go for a hike. You can do shorter hikes or longer hikes, depending on if you like to walk
Right.
more or if you do walk more. Yeah, and if you don't want to hike, you just want to see the view, you can also take the bus up to up to halfway, maybe not exactly to the lookout,
Okay.
but you can go there halfway and do a maybe 10 minutes to 15 minutes walk to the lookout. It's pretty convenient. There's also, I think there's also a pond where you can
Okay.
do some sort of boating. Yeah, so it's pretty nice. And in the winter, they have can't picnic there, of course, because they snow. But you can do some snow tubing, I think.
Oh, that
When they,
sounds like a full day of just activities.
yeah, it's very fun over there.
Can you walk me through your itinerary? What did you do exactly on your travel? How did you plan it? What were the things you wanted to see for sure?
So when I plan my trips, I usually start with maybe booking the train or the
Right.
flight. And then also I look for accommodations. Usually I would look for places that are close to a subway station.
Okay.
And then I will start planning the itinerary. I would just open the Google map and do some research, where are the places that I want to go. And then I'll see if I can visit maybe 2 or 3 places
Right.
on a day. And then I would just list them out and see how I can fit them into the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds wise. You said you did get to travel to different places. How did you travel mainly when you were in Montreal?
Because I live in Toronto.
Okay.
And then when I went there, the first time actually my friends, they have a card, so they drove us everywhere. Like second time, none of us drive. So we
Okay.
just took the train to Montreal and then we took the bus back. And within Montreal, we mainly took the subway and a bus.
Right.
It's pretty convenient because you just have to buy, like, they have some passes. You can choose like a 1 day
Okay.
pass, like a week pass. And then I think I got the 3 days one. And then so we can just do a hop on, hop off whenever we need to take a transit. Also, it's pretty walkable in downtown Montreal.
And when you mentioned the buses, are they affordable as well?
But yeah, like I think you can do a calculation before you buy it, because I just figure out that if we're going to take like more than 2 rides a day, then it would be cheaper to buy a pass. But
Right.
if you think that, oh, I'm not gonna take as much rides as I think, like I'll just walk, or maybe if you can do biking as well,
Right.
then maybe you won't take the transit. Yeah, but it's pretty affordable.
Right.
Because if you don't buy a pass and you take a ride in Montreal, it's gonna be like, I think it's 325 or 375 Canadian dollars
Oh,
per ride but you can take multiple rides within 90 minutes because that counts as transfer. But if you buy so I bought the 3 day, I think 3 days or 4 days pass. It's like $21. Yeah, so it's definitely cheaper to buy the pass.
I just have one last question about the attractions, the itinerary. Was there any place that you actually wanted to go but you couldn't visit in any of your trips?
Yeah, there's a few. So one of them, I forgot the name, but it's actually out of the center of Montreal. It's like on the outskirts of it, an area that belongs to the indigenous people.
Okay.
So they have some sort of cultural events over there, but because of the traffic and transport, like I don't drive, so it's harder for me to get there. So I didn't go, but I really want to visit that place.
What time would be the charm? Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming to your accommodation, can you tell me where you lived?
So for the first time and the second time, I stayed at an Airbnb. And for the third time, I stayed at a student residence called
Okay.
Campus One, because it's summer, so they rent it out as a hotel. The reason why I chose that student residence was that it was slightly cheaper than the Airbnb at that period of time. But otherwise, I would actually prefer an Airbnb because it's more comfortable and usually they have everything you need.
Yeah.
But in that student accommodation, for example, if I need a hair dryer, then I'll have to go to the front desk and give them my ID, and then I can keep that for a period of time. So it's like a little inconvenience there. I guess I'll choose staying at an Airbnb next time if I'm going again.
Okay. All these locations, all your accommodations, were they in the same area?
They're all in not exactly the same area, but they're all in downtown Montreal. and
Okay.
right next to some subway stations.
And can you tell me about how was the vibe of each of these places?
So it's generally they're pretty safe, although they're in downtown area, but they're not in the. Some places are sketchy, but they're not,
Yeah.
which is a big relief because I'm not too familiar with it at first. Now because I've been there for 3 times, I know which area are more sketchy, but before that I didn't know, and I'm actually pretty glad that they're quite safe.
Okay. Were they near facilities like grocery stores or convenience stores?
Yeah, there are some grocery stores. Usually, I think I forgot of the grocery stores because they're in
Right.
French. Yeah, there are a few, like a couple of convenience store pharmacies around the places. Because it's in downtown, they're usually pretty accessible.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Especially if you're living in an Airbnb, you'd want to be around places, where there's a grocery store available.
It's actually pretty easy to find when you're in downtown.
Yeah.
And they have shopping malls, they have shopping streets. So usually it's not that difficult to find one. Even if you have to walk, it's gonna be like just 5 or 10 minutes. So it's pretty doable.
Okay. So, in the accommodation you lived in, the residence in your last visit, did it also offer you food and all the three meals?
So for the Airbnb, there would be no. They have a kitchen, and then they have some seasonings, and so that if you want to cook, you can cook. But they, of course, they don't provide food. And for the student residents, they provide breakfast. It's like you can't expect anything uh, like
Fancy.
a hotel quality breakfast. But it's like a very simple, like they have some bread, they have some sausages, they have some fruits, they have some cereals, like they have a
Right.
good variety of food, but like you can expect like a high quality breakfast, but it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Right. So, you were on your own for lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right. And would you also say these places are kid friendly or pet friendly?
I don't think they're pet friendly. So I don't have a pet, so I didn't really check that out, but I don't think they
Right.
are because I never really seen pets.
So, overall, it was a good location to stay, accessible to everything. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming to food, Montreal is known for its flavorful food. And I've also read that that's where the Canadian baker was invented. What kind of food did you try there?
So I tried loads of food. I think the top three food I would recommend would be the bagel, poutine, and smoked meat. So for the bagel, there's one called, I'm not sure if I'm getting right on the pronunciation. It's called Singviators or Singviators. I'm not sure. It's French. Really good. Yeah, they have a very they have a famous bagel. I think on maybe some sort of food program. I'm not sure. It's called the Joe Bagels, and then they put some
Right.
fig jam and cream cheese on it. It's a sweet
Nice.
bagel. It's really good. And then for the smoked meat, then you have to spend some time to just line up and wait to be seated. But you can get a pretty nice smoked meat sandwich there. It's really nice, fat and juicy. And then for the poutine, there's a shop called La Banque's. I think
Okay.
it's the most famous shop in town. And you also have to go line up for it
Oh,
for quite like the first time I went there, it was like midnight. They run like 24 hours.
nice.
So I went in the midnight, and it took us like an hour to get seated, even in the mid. It's so very popular.
Famous. Yeah.
Yeah. And apart from this, you can also try some French food like crepes or maybe just pastries. They're all pretty
Uh-huh.
good.
Sounds yummy.
Yeah, so good.
Can you also tell me if these places, or in general, is vegan friendly or vegetarian friendly?
Yeah, they do have those food. I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but I have some friends who are, and they have no problem there. So I guess you definitely have to do some research, but I think they are vegan or vegetarian friendly
Right.
restaurants.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, coming to water. So this is one of the questions that most tourists have that they go to a different place. Like how safe is it to drink tap water there?
So in Canada, I can say there's 100% clean drinking water everywhere, but at least in major cities in Canada, they are usually safe to drink. So in Montreal, definitely clean, but maybe in rural area, some of the places they're not.
So your tourists don't have to carry their own water bottle around. Okay. Can you also tell me about the Wi-Fi facility in the city in case someone's going there for like a working holiday?
For Wi-Fi, that like most accommodation, they have their own Wi-Fi, so
Right.
it's usually good. And then for shopping malls, they usually have Wi-Fi as well, or libraries, they also have Wi-Fi. But on the street, maybe not, and not in some restaurants. Not all restaurants have Wi-Fi, so you have to be aware of that. And also, but you can get a SIM card like the data. I'm not sure if the price is the same in Montreal as in Toronto, because I I helped my parents got theirs in Toronto, and then it's like $10 for the card, and then $30 for maybe 20 GB data.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, but it's affordable and reasonable in Canada. Because even for people who is paying monthly, the price is pretty much the same, or maybe even more. So I think it's fair. And so if you're going there for like more than a week,
Mhm.
like 2 weeks, then maybe you can get a SIM card. It's actually, I think it's actually fair to get one.
Okay, that's a good. Another
Yeah.
question I had was about shopping. Yeah. Did you manage to do any shopping there?
So I did not go shopping, but I walked past the shopping streets. I think there are a few shopping areas in Montreal that you can go. So there's St. Catherine Street and also St. Lawrence. And there's also another one, but I forgot the name. So St. Catherine's, it's more like high-end shopping area.
Okay.
And St. Lawrence, they have more boutiques and small shops, like more trendy ones. So
Nice.
yeah, it depends on what you like. You can go and walk around or maybe just do some window shopping.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, but there's one thing I have to mention is that the tax, because in Canada, each province has its own GST, HST, the tax. I'm not sure what's the full. Just you have to pay tax when you buy things, when you go dine in somewhere in a restaurant. In Montreal, the tax is about 14. I'm not sure like, if it's almost 15, not exactly 15, maybe 14, 1995, something like that. It's one of the provinces that have the highest tax.
Oh, okay.
So if you're traveling to Canada and you're not just going to Montreal, then it's better to things elsewhere, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Okay, and I also had another question in case if there's a tourist who go to Montreal and maybe they might not adjust that, but they need a painkiller or something. So are these kind of drugs easily available on prescription?
So it depends because they have pharmacies
Mm-hmm.
and it's everywhere. If it's just a pill for cold or something like that, like the basic drugs, you can get it from the store. But for maybe other drugs, some drugs you have to get it with the prescription letter from the doctor.
Right.
Otherwise, they won't sell it to you. And also, they don't usually do 24/7 hours, 24 hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to check the time first.
Yeah, I know that being in Canada, Montreal is pretty friendly to English speakers, but is there a necessity to also know a bit of French when you're there?
Yeah, it definitely helps if you can speak a little bit of French. You don't have to know a lot, but it would always be nice if you know the basic terms like how to say thank you, like merci and then bonjour. It would be nice, but it's not necessary unless you're planning to go to somewhere outside Montreal. But within Montreal, it's all right.
During your trip to Montreal, did you also manage to go to any nearby places?
Yeah, I actually went to Quebec City as well.
Okay.
I think it's a 2 hour train ride from Montreal.
Mhm.
It's also a pretty historical place in the entire country. I went there in the summer, but it's actually even better to go there during Christmas because it's more
Nice.
festive and they have more things to do there. But yeah, it's still nice to go there in the summer because the view is pretty. Also, I think it's one of the K drama filming
Uh,
sets. I don't know. There's a K drama called Goblin.
yeah, yeah, I know that
It's
one.
like it was a few years ago already, but I think they filmed some of their scenes there. So it's pretty famous for that. And people
Nice.
go there just to take pictures and yeah, just walk around. It's very picturesque and it's very nice.
That sounds nice. Yeah, I've heard of the K drama there. It was a very famous scene. Okay. Can you tell me about the season? Whether the season you've been to all three times, were they the same season or different seasons?
I went it twice in the summer and
Okay.
once in the winter. In the summer, usually the weather is pretty nice. It might rain a little bit, but usually not heavy rain. But the downside of going there in the summer is that usually, because in Canada, not just in Montreal, in Canada, they love doing road construction in the summer.
Okay.
It might, maybe the roads would look pretty, it just doesn't look as nice. And I think then that would be a big issue as well because you will see a lot of detour signs and you just can't, even if Google provide you a route, you can't really follow it because they always have some
Yeah.
road constructions. So that would be a big problem. But of course, if you're just taking the subway, then it's usually okay. And in the winter, depending on when you're going,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it might snow, it might not. So when I went there, it was actually Christmas, but it was last year's. And last year in Canada, it wasn't really a very cold winter. I heard that. It didn't really snow a lot, just a little bit. It was pretty warm. But as you can see, the weather is always like this, pretty gloomy. Yeah. So it's not, maybe it's not the best time to take pictures, but it's nice. Still
Right.
nice.
So if you had to give travelers a tip about the weather, the season, which season would you prefer them to plan their trip there?
Yeah, I can't really say that which one is better than which, but because I would say it's different if you go
Mhm.
there in different seasons. But yeah, if you're going there in the summer, just beware of the traffic. But if you're going there in the winter,
Okay.
of course, bring more clothes and prepare for the snow because, like, sometimes if you're lucky, they don't have heavy snow, then it would be all right. You'll
Yeah.
be fine. If you really come across like a snowstorm or
Mhm.
something like that, then it would be a problem. So just be aware of
Right.
that. But yeah, you don't really know that before you go there. Oh, and also like during holidays,
Okay.
like really a public holidays, many places are usually closed. So you have to be aware of that as well. Yeah. I'm not just talking about the tourist spots, but also like grocery stores
Mhm.
and maybe pharmacies. They would close during the public holiday.
Okay. Those are good tips. In the beginning of when we were talking about accommodation, you mentioned that there were some places with cats. So can you tell me more about that?
There are certain neighborhoods that feel a little bit more sketchy. So one of them, it's around like the outside of Chinatown. I
Okay.
feel like that part is a little bit sketchy. And it's not just in Montreal, but in most major cities in Canada as well. Usually not within Chinatown, but like the outskirt of it. I
Okay.
don't know why. It just happens to be like this. And then there's also another place called, there's an area between Little Italy and another area called Mount Anne. There was like when I went there for the second time, I walked from Little Italy to this neighborhood called Mount Anne, and
Okay.
between these two neighborhoods, I felt like it's a little bit sketchy as well. Usually in these places, they have more homeless people and some people who just, I don't know how to phrase that, but they feel like they are on drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. So felt a little bit safe. But yeah, other than that, most places are pretty safe.
Okay. So can you also tell me a few safety tips that you took when you were there?
So first of all, do not walk alone at night. I guess this applies to everywhere as well. And also, if you can share your location with someone you trust whenever you go anywhere. So I
Okay.
guess that's the two tips. And also, it would be nice if you know like the emergency numbers beforehand. That would be too.
Those are great tips, especially the emergency number one. It's not something you think of immediately. Okay, we are winding down with our interview now, our talk now. So, can you tell me your overall experience in Montreal?
I think it's pretty nice overall. I like the food there, of course, it's so nice. And then there's a lot to do. Of course, the views are pretty nice as well. And also sometimes it feels like going to Europe
Okay,
because it's so different than any other places in North America. I think it's like a little getaway, so it feels nice. Also, even it is a French speaking city, it's also you can still talk to people in English, so that
mhm,
really helps. So I
right.
guess in general, I really recommend visiting this place.
Okay. And I also heard that Montreal can be expensive. So, do you have any tips on how the traveling can be more budget friendly?
Yeah, because in it's gonna be expensive in Canada
Yep.
anyways. But if you want to save more, I'd say like in terms of public transit, if you're traveling with less than 4 people, it's better
Okay.
to just walk or take the public transit. But if you're going with a group of 4 or 6, and if someone drives, sometimes it's cheaper to drive, or also sometimes it's even cheaper to take an Uber. Surprisingly, I don't know why. And so maybe do some calculation before you choose your method of traveling. And then, oh, and also if you're taking a flight directly from outside of Canada to
Okay.
Montreal, then this might not be helpful. If you're traveling within Canada and maybe you're going from, maybe just like me, you're going from Toronto or Ottawa or
Okay.
somewhere else and you want to take the train there, there's actually, usually you have to take the Via Rail train.
Mm-hmm.
And Via Rail usually they have something called a Tuesday discount.
Okay.
Like they would release some sort of discounts on Tuesdays, and you can subscribe to their email list, and then they will send you the offers, and then just take a look and keep track of it. If you are going there or going anywhere
Okay.
else, you can buy a cheaper ticket with their discount code. Usually, I think I got one of the tickets. I got like a 30% off.
Okay.
So it's pretty nice to have this. But yeah.
Okay. Is there anything in our talk that I didn't get the chance to ask you, but you'd want the travelers to know?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I can share with you the two things because I went cycling in Montreal last month when
Okay.
I went there for the first time, and then I broke my toe.
Oh no.
Yeah, I broke my toe, and then I went to the emergency room, and then I realized that they can speak English, but they mainly use French. Even when
Okay.
you have to get the list, and then they will call out some numbers, and even when they call out those numbers, they use French. But I realized that it only happens to some of the hospitals. Like some of the hospitals, it's bilingual, but some of the hospitals they mainly use French. So,
Okay.
and I realized that one of the ways that you can avoid this situation, because it's gonna give you a heart attack when you reach there and find out that, oh, they only speak French and I can't speak French. If you could, then you can check on Google Maps, or maybe your friends can help you to check on Google Maps and see the pictures
Okay.
of the hosts. If they have bilingual signs, they usually English would be more accessible in that hospital. But
Okay.
if not, then maybe you should avoid hospital. Also, you can confirm with your insurance company as well, because they usually have a list of hospitals and they can tell which one. If that hospital is not on their list, usually that means they only speak French or mainly use French.
Okay. Yep, that's a really good tip. So I think we talked comprehensively about Montreal, and it was really amazing seeing Montreal from your eyes and just getting to talk to you about this lovely city. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have more trips with us to share. So thanks once again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to chat with you.